Hey, this is Stephen Warren Hill. I'm the co-author of Red, White, and Who, the story of Doctor Who in America. And I have been a guest on Mark Who 42 and would encourage you to keep listening as often as possible.
Ho, 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 and welcome to the Christmas episode of Mark Who 42 here on Subspace Radio. Okay, it's not really the Christmas episode, but we are on during Christmas, so let's call it a day. I'm your host, Mark Baumgarten, and with me, as always, is...
Juan Sanmiguel in Orlando.
Hey, Juan, how's it going?
Oh, same old, same old. Just trying to survive, trying to not be overwhelmed by the Christmas season. I hope to just be whelmed.
Okay, excellent. Vicky is taking a break tonight, so Vicky will not be with us, but we do have some special guests. I think I mentioned on several previous shows that I am featured in a book called Fantastic, a celebration of fans discovering Doctor Who. And when that was coming out, I was like, let's bring the publisher and the author, let's bring the people who could put this book together, let's bring them on the show. So we did. And we hoped to have him on a month or two ago, but because of something called Chicago TARDIS, we 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 had to hold on for that. But let me introduce our guests, Nick Seidler and Stephen Warren Hill. Welcome, guys.
Hi.
Welcome. Thank you for having us.
You're very welcome. Nick, I'm glad you're here. I have never met you. Stephen and I were talking pre-show. I think I met him at a Gallifrey in 2018. Because I remember having a conversation with him, but I don't remember what it was. Stephen has no memory of it,
Yeah.
so
I
one of
don't.
us was drunk. It must have been. We must have been with Fraser, and we got drunk. Well, Fraser wasn't there that year, was he? No. Anyway, Nick, thank you for coming here. Let's talk to you. I have a very important question.
Sure.
And the question has left my mind, but that's okay because this is Mark Who 42. And yes, let's go there. Let's go with the Who. Tell us a little about yourself, Nick. That was the question.
Sure. Actually, that was very nice and a great lead-in. Thank you so much. A couple things about me. I've been a lifelong Doctor Who fan. We're having like a blast being here on your show. What an opportunity. Happy holidays to everybody here listening. So that's amazing. A little bit about
We
me.
actually did not say
Yeah.
Happy Hanukkah to the viewers last episode. So I'm sorry, folks. Happy Hanukkah.
Yeah, absolutely. We
Yes.
got it's for everybody, right? So that's what.
Kwanzaa, everything in there. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So just a couple things about me. I've been a lifelong Doctor Who fan. Discovered the show when I was in high school, my freshman year of high school, and have gotten involved with a lot of different fan activities. Helped run a Doctor Who fan club in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, called the Earthbound Time Lords. Got involved in other clubs such as the Federation and the Milwaukee Time Lords, which is a club that's still active, as well as the Earthbound Time Lords online. Very happy to be involved in that. Over the years, really got involved in a lot of aspects of Doctor Who and its fandom in general. So got involved in video projects that the Federation did, got involved in the Doctor Who scripts project, retaining and making sure that the scripts of lost episodes were available online for people to read. The Earthbound Time Lords was the first academic Doctor Who website where we posted academic articles online. With that came the Doctor Who fanzine preservation project. So that's something we've been doing for about 30 years now, is saving Doctor Who fanzines from all over the world. Very
How can we
kind of big
access that?
project.
How can we access that?
It's not totally accessible, to be very honest with you.
Okay.
The problem is that we don't have a big enough team to scan everything. Quite frankly, we're basically just trying to make sure that they exist, and the goal is to
Okay.
put all of those into an academic library so that they exist and live forever. So, um, just some other projects. The Diary of Doctor Who role-playing games, fanzine is a project that we are a part of. And also a number of other projects. Both Steve and I are involved in the Doctor Who Cuttings Archive project, as well as a project called Broadcast. Both of those who are run by John LaValle and were started off-site with other people that we're very active on. And of course, Steve, myself, and then 4 other authors were the people who initially wrote the Red, White, and Who, A Story of Doctor Who in America, which is an amazing book. Unfortunately, not available electronically. The publisher, ATB Publishing, only wanted to do physical copies of that. And then
I
recently,
need to talk to Arnold about that. I really do.
yeah,
I really need
I,
to, because I want a digital copy.
yeah, I think that would be a great opportunity myself. And then recently, within the last 2 years, I started my own publishing company called Zeppo Publishing, and we've been publishing fandom and Doctor Who, of course, related books just recently. And that's just me. There's so much more to Steve, so I'll turn it over to Steve so he can introduce himself. Unless you
Um,
guys want to do something
No,
else.
no,
So,
no, no. I was about to segue to Steve, so take it
okay.
away.
I am going to be nowhere near as thorough as Nick was, because there's so much that I've had my hands in that I've kind of forgotten about actually. Uh, going back, I think I kind of started my online fandom as a member of CompuServe, in the SFNF forum on CompuServe
What
back
year
in
was
the
that?
mid '80s. I was on starting in '84 through probably at least for a few years.
I was on a Doctor Who bulletin board back then. Remember those?
Oh
Oh
yeah,
my God.
yeah, yeah, sure. I used to try out bulletin boards by looking up, directories of bulletin boards, looking for Doctor Who groups, and
Yeah.
dialing them up and seeing what they had. Um, and got into HTML pretty early on and created the Doctor Who image archive online, which went live just before the TV movie aired.
Yeah, I think I
And
used to access that. I used to
yeah,
go
you
on there.
probably did, because
Yeah.
most people who were fans back then who
Yeah.
were online definitely did. And that is actually still up online, but it hasn't been updated in decades. So, but it's still accessible. Um, and from there, I started as a staff member on Outpost Gallifrey, Sean Lyon's online forum,
Hmm.
and eventually rose up to be his chief administrator. And then when he decided to close down Outpost Gallifrey, I started Gallifrey Base, which is still running. I just created the sections for the War Between the Land and the Sea last night before I went to bed. So always up to date.
Yeah, we
Um,
actually are recording this 1 hour from the premiere of episode 1 on
yeah.
BBC.
Yeah.
Um, and been pretty active in fandom since I started going to conventions. My first Doctor Who convention was in '84, and I went to all of the Visions conventions in the Chicago area. I went to some of the Spirit of Light conventions, not the first
Mm.
one, but all the rest of them. And just been gradually getting more and more involved. I joined the Federation in '86. They're a local fan club who were making fan videos, parody videos, and I wanted to get into that. And at present, I am the program director for Chicago TARDIS,
Which you
we just
just
had last
finished. That
weekend.
was I hear that was amazing. I also hear it snowed.
Oh yeah,
Is that an
we got about
understatement? Is that an understatement? It snowed.
we got about 10 inches of
Yeah.
snow, if not more,
If you're
on
going to
the
be
Saturday of the
anywhere,
convention.
Yeah, if you're going to be anywhere, being trapped in a hotel with like 1,000 or 2,000 other Doctor Who fans, that's
Yeah,
the way to be trapped in a snowstorm. It was amazing.
I wish I was there. All right. So, and I wanted to thank you, Stephen. I wanted
Mhm.
to talk a little about, well, a little about, let's talk about Fantastic. The book, I've read it through and through. It's great. I love being in it. It's all about people who are fans of Doctor Who fandom. And one interesting thing about this book is it's got an important note on historical accuracy, and I'm going to go a little into that. The responses are presented as we got them. What is reported here are individual fans' memories as they recall them, and in some cases may not be factual or historically accurate. Now, saying that, I have to bring up something that John Nathan Turner once said: "The memory cheats." Okay,
I
I have to say,
challenge that.
I have no, because I have to make a rebuttal from something in the book.
Uh-huh.
Okay, I always said I started watching Doctor Who when I was in sixth grade on WPBT, and the first episode I saw was the Santaran experiment, episode 2, the first time they showed it. That's true. That is true. There's nothing wrong with that. The cheating part is that I always give the starting date as September 1978. And thanks to broadcast, Channel 2 did not start airing the show until May 7th, 1979. So I didn't start watching in 78. I saw it in 79. So that means I watched it on Monday, the 14th of May, incidentally meaning because they showed the Ark in Space after Santaran experiment, that Genesis of the Daleks, which I always say that's how I got into it, the second episode. No, I think it was the bubble wrap that cemented me as a Doctor Who fan. My love is there. Okay, I just
Mhm.
had to say that, Nick, because if you got
Yeah,
responses to what I wrote,
yeah, no,
memory
no, that
cheats. Memory cheats.
when we got all the stories in Fantastic, and what's great about the book Fantastic: A Celebration of Fans Discovering Doctor Who is that it's over 100 Doctor Who fans actually told us what the first episode they ever saw was. They explained to us how they became a fan and then what their favorite fan moment was. And then there was a fourth question, which is if you were to introduce somebody new to the show, which story would you suggest that they start with?
Hmm.
And what was interesting was as we were getting the responses, we realized that there was a little bit of cheating memory as well, right? Like, and I'll be the first to admit that's true for me because I always thought that I had started watching Doctor Who around 1981.
Hmm.
And thanks to the broadcast website that John LaValle puts together, along with John Predel from New Zealand, I discovered that the first story that I ever saw was broadcast in 1983 in Milwaukee. And so I had been cheating myself out of trying to get, I guess, 2 years more fandom in. And it's interesting because watching the broadcast of the Five Doctors on PBS was monumental because that was the first time I saw all of the Doctors in some
Yeah.
way, shape, or form. But in reality, that was only 6 months after I'd started becoming a fan. And I swear, at that point, I had immersed myself into Doctor Who so much that I thought there were years in between me learning that. And it turned out to be 6 glorious months between in my first freshman and sophomore year of high school, actually. So um, it happened to me, right?
Yeah.
And
But I mean,
so,
luckily with me, it was only a period of like 6, 7 months. I was off, but I was off by 3/4 of a year, maybe 9 months. And the interesting thing is, I always tell people I started with the ninth episode during a run through. No, sixth episode through the first run through. So actually, my memory may have been bad, but I'm cooler in the aspect that I saw more Doctor Who than a lot of people back then.
yeah,
So there you
that's awesome. And so, in the book, we just had to include the disclaimer because as we saw the stories come in from fans, we realized because we now had resources like broadcast and program guides and things like that, that memory was cheating more than just me and some of the other people, right? And so, but we didn't want to change the stories because that's how people remember the stories. And
go.
if
Right.
they want to go and investigate it and discover that, actually in my broadcast area, it started a little later, or maybe in some cases a little earlier, that's for them to say. And we just really felt it was important to keep those stories intact the way the fans were enjoying them. And
I'm glad you did. I'm glad you
yeah.
did, because if you had rewritten them, it would have felt like, unless you contacted us and went through it with us, if you just rewrote it, that would have been bad. So I do like the fact we get to say what we say, and it's out there. Because what I say, what I said in the book, I've talked about at many, when I do panels at conventions, sometimes we do like an introductory to Doctor Who, and we ask them what their favorite doctors and stuff. And that's something I say. And now I'm like, oh, I think I have to change what I say further now on. Uh, but, but no, it's cool. And I wanted to ask, I know you guys answered these in the book, but Stephen, what was the first episode or story of Doctor Who that you saw?
Well, and I've gone back and forth on this because all I know for sure is the bits of episodes that I remember seeing, and then looking back at what WTTW in Chicago aired in 1975, I can definitely say, okay, I don't have a memory of seeing any part of this episode, so I'm gonna assume that I didn't see that one. But then the very first story that I remember for sure seeing bits of. Well, the first stories, I'll just throw them all in a basket. I remember The Mind of Evil. I remember one of the episode cliffhangers where one of the prisoners is on that stairway holding a gun, pointing a gun at the brigadier, or maybe they were pointing guns at each other. I don't remember exactly, but that specifically, I remember the maypole dance at the end of the Demons. I
Oh, yeah.
remember the slimy crawly form of Axos in the claws of Axos crawling, and that's only a brief moment in the episode, crawling over the floor. I remember that specifically because my brother, who was 2 years older than me, made fun of me for watching that scene, and then he threw an Afghan over his head and started crawling towards me watching this episode. I was 9 years old, and then he starts doing the Doctor Who theme, like trying to scare me. I think I just told him to get out of the room. He was never a Doctor Who fan. So I remember bits and pieces, and then the date that I arrived at in Fantastic is an estimate because I can't be certain, but that date was November, I think November 17th, maybe 1975. And if it wasn't that date, it was definitely right around there that I
Yeah.
must have first seen Doctor Who. And boy, was I captivated by it.
Okay. Juan, I have a question for you.
Yep.
Did you live in South Florida all your life?
Well, born
Because,
and raised, and now I live
okay.
in Central
Did
Florida.
you know, and I didn't know this, did you know that John Pertwee episodes were shown down here?
I never remember. I didn't see them. I
Not
mean,
on
the thing.
Channel 2, on a commercial station. I think it was 10 or something. There was I don't know. It was something I noticed on broadcast, and I'm like, But I didn't move till 78, so I didn't know.
I don't remember seeing John Pertwee until Omnicon started coming around.
Right.
So.
I saw Dan Harris's videos, but yeah. Stephen, you probably know more of that. You could probably look at it right now. Did John Pertwee get shown down here?
Well, I would have to look that up on
All right,
broadcast.
yeah.
I'm not certain about that, and it would have been later. So I lived in Lauderhill from mid 1978 to
Oh,
spring 1982.
okay.
So I had already seen Doctor Who in Chicago. When we moved to Florida, I remember seeing the commercials on television that they were going to be showing this thing called Doctor Who, and they were promoting it as a TV movie, basically. And it was an edited version of The Hand of Fear. And I cannot remember now. I think it's documented in Red, White, and Who, but it was meant to be a test broadcast to see how the
Right. Okay, then that's what I was thinking of. Okay.
Yeah, and there were two stations that I could watch Doctor Who on in Lauderhill. the public television station, and I think West was it West Palm Beach or was it?
It was Palm Beach. Yeah, it was Palm Beach.
Okay, and one of those that one was a commercial station, if I remember right. Um, and I always assumed for years that they showed the Hand of Fear because maybe there was a sports event that was blacked out or something and they needed to fill that time slot. I don't know if that's true or not, but I always assumed that because it was a weird thing that they were showing it. And then a few weeks later, one of the stations started showing it regularly.
Channel 2 started in May of 79 at 6 o'clock every night, Monday through Friday. And I remember I got my mother to let us watch it every day at dinner. I never miss it.
Yeah.
It was repeated 3 or 4 times. I never missed an episode. Then there was an episode. Then they brought in, the last 3 of the Tom Baker. And I remember it was Horns of Nyman episode 4. I think that's it. I may be off. But I think that was the episode that was on the night of a Jewish holiday, and I had to go to temple. So I had a audio recorder, and actually with a TV band on it, and I actually recorded it. So I was a diehard fan. I mean, what I wrote in that thing is just tip of the iceberg.
I have audio recordings of some of those. Like I know I audio recorded Genesis of the Daleks and listened to it all over and over and over again. And they must have had the introductions. They must have been the edited versions with the Howard Da Silva intros.
Howard Da Silva, my hero.
If I could find those tapes, I must have them somewhere, but I haven't been able to locate.
And Juan, I hear you. You haven't had a chance to ask a question, and we only have about 3.5 minutes in this segment. But Juan asked something. Go for it.
You said you've done academic work. Have you guys ever considered presenting at ICFA, or have you heard of ICFA, the International Conference for Fantastic of the Arts? They've occasionally done fan presentations or presentations about fandom. Definitely fanfic, I can tell you that.
I'm not familiar with that myself. I have given academic presentations about Doctor Who before, which is actually very fun. I'm just not familiar with that particular conference. That sounds wonderful. And I think we would feel very confident and positive about being a part of that. One of the reasons that we actually did Fantastic as a book is because almost every Doctor Who fan will ask one another, hey, what was the first story of Doctor Who that you ever saw? And because of the academic background that we have, we were like, this is not documented anywhere. And so when we engaged and started talking about doing Fantastic as a book, what we really wanted to do is put together something that people, especially academics, can use so that some of this information is documented, especially for older fans who started with the classic series. And so therefore you had an opportunity where you have at least 100 data points where you can look at and actually say, hey, these seem to be critical moments in Doctor Who fandom or episodes that seem to resonate with people. But really it came from as we went to conventions, and every time we've engaged people like you, Mark, or Steve, or Juan, right? We almost always ask ourselves when we're at a con or an event, oh, hey, what was the first episode you saw? Or what was your favorite Doctor? Hint, hint, that could be an upcoming book sometime.
Oh,
okay?
I'm ready to write for that.
Yeah, we're ready for you, just,
But
one of the reasons we wanted to do it was to include a lot of fans and then also make sure that some of this was captured because we know it isn't captured yet in an academic setting. So.
Wow. All right, guys, I think we're going to take our only break. We're going to take our break. When we come back, we're going to have more of Nick Seidler and Stephen Warren Hill talking about Fantastic, a celebration of fans discovering Doctor Who. It's a great book. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about Red, White, and Who as well when we come back here on Subspace Radio.
Don't go away. Don't go away. We'll be back with more Mark Who 42 after this.
Get ready for the ultimate geek experience right here in the Sunshine State. Florida Geek Scene presents a full calendar of events and conventions. From anime to horror, we've got it all. Meet your favorite stars, find rare collectibles, and immerse yourself in your passions. Experience the thrill of cosplay and witness amazing live performances. Stay up to date with the latest news and reviews all across Florida. Florida Geek Scene, where pop culture happens. Visit us online for more. Don't miss out on the fun. Join us at Florida Geek Scene, floridageekscene.com.
Because the world needs another movie podcast.
The Geekcast Radio Network presents for your listening pleasure the Cinema Geek.
Hosted by Amanda, Kevin, Matt, and Dan.
Each week we dive headfirst in the landscape of movies as we discuss movie news,
Play movie games.
Go in depth on reviews.
And even have a top 10 countdown or two.
Also, don't miss our director retrospective series, where we review noted directors' movies film by film.
Bottom line is, if you love movies and love podcasts, you need to experience the Cinema Geeks.
You can find us on iTunes, Blog Talk Radio, or geekcastradio.com.
You are listening to Mark Who 42's Universe.
Welcome back to more of Mark Who 42 here on Subspace Radio and all over the interweb thingy, Florida Geek Scene, Geekcast Radio Network, and everywhere you get your podcasts from. I'm your host, Mark Baumgarten. With me, of course, is Juan Sanmiguel and our guests, the people who authored and wrote. Well, I mean, I can't. You wrote. It's kind of weird to say that they're the writers of Fantastic: A Celebration of Fans Discovering Doctor Who, because the writers were like 100 fans. There were a lot of fans, right, Nick?
That's exactly correct. Yep. What we really wanted was the fans to be heard. And while I edited the book, just collecting and procuring it, one of our team, Libby Shea, who could not be with us because she's in Japan right now, suggested that I should say that I curated the book so that I could be the curator. Like
so Nick Seidler is the curator of Fantastic. And Stephen, what would your role be?
Supporter.
Supporter. Okay, we got it down.
I think Steve's being a little mellow. He participated in the book. He actually did a bunch of the statistical research that's at the back of the book. He compiled some of the answers and the statistics of how many people answered which stories were the first story they saw and which stories they would recommend that people be a part of. So he did a little bit more than that, but I think Steve's a little modest. So I want to kind of give him a shout out. So
I was very glad that it wasn't Blink that everyone said, because that is not the answer. It's a complicated answer, as I wrote, but no.
Show on that.
we can do we should. Let's schedule another show. Let's do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So yeah, this book was great. It's amazing, and I know you were talking about doing sequels to this book. Tell us a little about what's coming up.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. I want to extend an invitation to everybody listening to the Mark Who 42 podcast. We would love for you to be a part of the next Zeppo Publishing Doctor Who book. And so we just announced at Chicago TARDIS, because Fantastic has kind of been accepted so well and fans really like it, we want to include more fans and get some more information. So we are working on our next book, which we hope to have come out of October of 2026. And that's going to be called Behind the Sofa and Under the Bed, Stories That Scared Doctor Who Fans.
Wow.
So we were talking about bubble wrap or Steve's brother trying to scare him from underneath the, Afghan or whatever. One of the things that really struck us when we were compiling the stories in Fantastic was there were people that said, I literally was behind the sofa when I watched my first Doctor Who. And it was really wonderful hearing those stories. And then Steve and then Rob Warnock and then Jan, who had written Red, White, and Who with us, we were all together and chatting about what the next book should be. And we kind of thought, we should talk about times that Doctor Who scared fans. And just to be clear, I know that it may not have actually scared you, depending on the age that you were when you watched it, right? But I want to capture those moments that make us think about either scary moments or that sometimes surprise us. So that I would love to get feedback. And so there's 4 questions. We invite everybody who's listening to this podcast, any Doctor Who fan who wants to be a part of that book. And you can go to zeppopublishing.com/books and find those 4 questions in the release form. that if you want to be a part of that, and you can then email that, sign the release form, take a photo or a scan of it and send it to us, we will include you in that next book. And all of the authors who are part of Fantastic, so yourself, Mark, and Steve, and anybody else who wants to be a part of it, they will get an email probably over the holiday break where we will invite them to also be a part of that book. But we're inviting everybody to be a part of it. One of the things that I would really like to see a little bit more of is more younger fans responding, and also more women fans and fans of color, really, because we had about 75% of the respondents in Fantastic had names that presented as male. And so we would just like to get a larger diversity of answers. But it's also one of those things of, it's as simple to be a part of this book. And maybe I should have Steve talk about this, but all you have to do is answer. Steve, you say this better than I do, so I'm going to pass it to you.
Yeah, it's and Mark, we talked a little bit pre-show. You said for you it was just a Facebook post, and you didn't realize this was going to end up in a book. And
it was okay. So the questions were asked, and it was, we're writing a book. So I answered the questions. Nick was very happy with my answers, and that was all I heard. I never knew. I was like, oh, it must not be happening. And then all of a sudden on Facebook, next week, and I'm like, wait a minute, am I? And I had to contact Nick, and Nick goes, yes, Mark, you're in it. I'm like, okay, but I signed a release, so it's fine.
Yeah,
I didn't know I thought the book was gone. I did not realize you were doing this and just keeping it on the down low.
Yeah. So and I think I said this to the crowd at Chicago TARDIS, was emphasizing it's that easy.
Yeah.
You want to end up in a book, all you have to do is answer these questions and send in your release form. And there will be a book with your information, your content in it that you can show around to your friends and sign for other people. You can be a part of these community signings that we've been doing. And it feels a little bit like, getting your high school yearbook signed, pass it around, get everybody to sign it. When you're in a crowd of Doctor Who fans who've all contributed to this one book, you might want every one of them to sign their entry, which is what we spent time doing at Chicago TARDIS. It's that easy.
Yeah,
really.
Technically, that's the second book that I've been a writer in. That's kind of cool.
Nice.
Very cool.
And to us, that's a chance for those fans who want to be a part of Doctor Who in a bigger way, to find their place and be a part of Doctor Who in some way, because we are in fact documenting their stories so that they can be used like in the long term, that people can hear their perspectives and their opinion on a show that they love, right? And so, like Steve was saying, we sort of do community signings. When we pick signing times at conventions like we did at Chicago TARDIS, we invite everybody who was a part of that book. Or when we do a panel at a convention, we invite everybody who wrote in that book to be a part of that panel and come and join us, sit on the stage or in front of the stage or maybe in the front row, depending on what seating is like, to be a part of that. And we have had people from all over the world be a part of that book, and we will be at other events. So you will see us this year at Console Room in Minneapolis. You'll see us at Gallifrey 1 in Los Angeles. We expect to be at Long Island 2 in New York this year. So
that's
absolutely.
where I'm from. That's
okay.
Before they started doing the convention, but that's where I was from.
Yeah,
if I had not moved, that would be where I would have.
Right.
Maybe I would have been on Radio Free Scarrow or something. I don't know.
You're not Canadian.
I know. Well, my aunt is, so my grandfather, Aunt Claus, into there.
Absolutely.
No, I wouldn't.
But please join us. That's the thing that I want. What Zeppo Publishing really wants to do is it wants to give the fans a voice, and it wants to include them, just like you're being kind and including us on your podcast, Mark. We want to include fans in books, because that's one of those things that not a lot of people have that way in. And there's plenty of Doctor Who books out there, but there's not a lot of opportunities for those fans to be a part of them. That's what a little bit of the place that our publishing company wants to be in, by including everybody. And Doctor Who fandom is such a welcoming and kind place that we really want all of those fans represented in some way.
Okay. That segues into Red, White, and Who a little, because it's the story of Doctor Who in America. And I have all these questions to ask you, but I think the one that's in big red letters here, how was I not in it?
You were.
In Red, White, and Who?
Well, they mentioned try.
I just, Oh, yeah, I guess we mentioned Troy, but I've been big in this. I've been in fandom since 2012. This book came out. We had the show since then. How was I not in it? I was
unlike
up
you,
and
I
down
felt
conventions
seen.
all over the country. How was I not in it? That's my only question, really.
You'll be in Red, White, and Two. Don't worry about it. You'll be good.
I mean, I think the obvious answer is fandom is so huge,
Yes.
and we we realized early on that our vision was really Midwest centric. So we had to make sure we had representation from all over the country. So we um, invited, I think we came up with a list of people from other metropolitan areas, some other essentially television broadcast areas, right? So centered around areas that were centers of television stations that might have shown Doctor Who. And we called them regional specialists,
experts.
regional
Okay.
experts. And we set up a mailing list for those regional experts so that we would put questions to them so that they could answer them. But
Okay.
I think it was just, if we had somebody in mind for an area, we may have gone straight to them, and they
Gotcha.
were going to be our representative for that whole metropolitan area, really. And that's the best answer I can give.
No, hey, that's a great answer. That's a great answer. I'm only playing with you. But I mean, the fact that this book is so, and I'm holding it, folks, so huge. You've got a lot of data and a lot of things to talk about with the history of Doctor Who in America. It's an amazing book. I need to reread it. And Arnold, please release it digitally. I need you to release it digitally, Mr. Bloomberg. So where did you, I mean, I know where you got the idea to do it, but why? I mean, it's a big challenge. What was the concept here? Just to have a book about that, or was there underlying?
Essentially, the answer is that we were all talking about somebody should document this stuff. There should be a book about early American fandom history, the broadcast history of the show. And we realized, for this book to exist, we would probably need to create it ourselves.
Yeah.
And that was really, is like, okay, we probably are some of the best people to write this. Let's just get to work on it.
Yeah.
The people involved right from the top may have changed a little bit over time, but the core group was, and I started writing almost immediately, came up with an outline and started writing. And I had the first few chapters written pretty much before we even had our first meeting, I think. But the meetings that we were having, all of the writers, the co-writers, was as we get deeper into the book, you get more detailed. And we wanted to keep it roughly chronological, but we knew that we'd have to chapterize it by subject. So comic books, books, publications, broadcast history, things like that. So it was a little bit of it's chronological up to a point, and then it kind of steers more towards topic driven chapters, but stays chronological within those.
Yeah.
One of the things that I'll add to that project and why it was important and why it remains important is because very often a lot of the history that we get of Doctor Who, understandably so, is the focus from the United Kingdom, right? So, of course, that's where the show originated. But Doctor Who as a series is much bigger than that. It means something to people in every country in the world. It's one of the greatest pieces of media of all time. The concept of Doctor Who, allowing you to tell stories in the future, in the past, in the present, in the sidestep of the present, where people walk on ceilings or World War II never happened. The idea is so good, and it's such a good vehicle for storytelling that it resonates to all cultures and all countries. And so one of the things that we discovered was that nobody had told the American story, or sometimes when they would do like DVD releases, they don't tell the story of maybe like the the voiceovers that Howard Da Silva did. But that's a huge part of history of Doctor Who, especially if you live in the United States, right? There's, of course, stories in Australia and Hong Kong and New Zealand, right? Germany has fandoms. Russia has fandoms, right? Brazil has a big fandom. And we couldn't write about that, right? Because we're not informed about all of those fandoms. But we did feel that we were very connected to American fandom and we knew a lot of the fans. And so I would love to see books about different parts of the world. In fact, when we were working on Fantastic, I was contacted by a writer who is from Turkey, who's really big into the Turkish Doctor Who scene. And he's thinking about writing a book about Doctor Who in Turkey. And I'm like, I would read that book. I would love to read that book because it's a context of something that I love, but I would also learn about the culture and learn about how something that I love unfolded for other people. And that's a little bit of the driver of Red, White, and Who was we just wanted to make sure that we could tell the American story and that it wasn't only the British story that we heard about Doctor Who, because Doctor Who is so much bigger and better than that, you know, and it's something that unifies people all around the world, and that's what we love.
Do you think Doctor Who fandom is, I won't say better, but I mean different than, like, let's say Star Trek fandom? Can you give us some differences that you would think are between the two? Because they do
Sure.
seem different.
Yeah, and I'll start by saying I am also a Star Trek fan, and I'm also a Star Wars fan.
There you go.
And I am a fan of all of, like, you can be a fan of all of those things. You know, we actually, Steve and I and a couple others were part of another book called How to Celebrate Your Fandom, and you are not limited to one fandom. You can enjoy all of those. But one thing that I think is unique about Doctor Who fandom is a little bit twofold. One, it's an intentionally an intellectual fandom. It's about people who want to learn, who want to understand. Okay, and Star Trek has that too.
I was
And
going to
then
say, that. Yeah, people. That's how people.
absolutely,
Yeah.
and Star Wars to some degree as well, right? But I think there's an underlying kindness that comes with Doctor Who that's a little bit different than some of the other. Star Trek is also kind, but it is a little bit procedural. It's a little bit, Starfleet has rules. It's a little bit rule based, a little
Yeah.
government, military based, right? And I was a military guy. I have no problem with that, right? But I think Doctor Who comes from a place of pure kindness and doing good for others that those other shows have too. I need to be very
Yeah.
fair. They have it as well. But it's sort of front and center in Doctor Who. And I'm sure Steve has thoughts on this as well, because he and I have talked about this a lot. So
Steve?
Yeah, I don't have a lot of personal experience with Star Trek fandom, but what Nick says absolutely resonates with me too. It's the kind of the hunger for understanding everything and everyone around you. And I get that that's part of Star Trek fandom, but again, I don't have the experience with Star Trek fans that I have with Doctor Who fans, so I can't say that it's to the same degree. But I feel it from Doctor Who fans, and that I guess would be, to my mind, the fundamental difference.
Because, like, in Star Trek, you have IDIC,
individual diversity and infinite
individual
combinations.
right? And that sounds kind of like where Russell moved the show into in the last 2 years. And there is a lot of inclusiveness, and people are different, and you're allowed to be different. And so, and I think that was something that before was more Star Trek, but I think now over the years that Doctor Who has more of that. Because remember, in the beginning on the BBC, you have all the white actors, the white. Yes, you had Warren Hussein direct the first story, but it was mostly a white person show. I think there was Tambora Tor in the character in Tomb of the Cybermen, and really that's what you had. And Star Trek from the beginning had different nationalities, different, they had Chekhov, you had Sulu, yeah. So there was a lot of difference, and I think maybe that was something that maybe Russell thought was sort of missing and wanted to bring it in, or do you think that was always there?
You know what, personally, I think Russell has done a phenomenal job of bringing the representation to the show and inclusiveness and not stopping. Like,
yeah,
I actually think he sits there saying, who haven't I included yet? I need to get them in. I need to do it. I can see him doing that.
Yeah.
And the weirdest thing, and I don't want to go down this lane very far, but why does it piss some people off? I don't
I
understand.
know it doesn't make
Right?
sense
Um,
because it has always been political. The show's always been had politics in it. You have the Green Death. There's always been that, and yeah, I think it. I don't want to say the culture. We try not to steer into things like that, but there's some things in the culture of the world nowadays, and has always been there. But it's more pronounced because you have the 24-hour news channels and you have the internet. So it was always there, but it does seem that there was a lot of that, and that's why. I mean, fans. We've had fans over the years who've always, we hate Doctor, we hate this Doctor, and then they come back.
yeah.
And now a lot of people I hear from, oh, we hate the Doctor, and we're never coming back.
It's rough for a person like me who likes to say, if you like any part of the show,
You're a fan.
You're a fan.
Yeah.
But I sympathize with what you're saying too. It's a tough kind of roller coaster to ride, because you don't want to say that for those people who are so dismissive of it just because there's something that they don't like.
Yeah.
Leave it alone if you don't like it. Just
and so you don't have to badmouth the show. Just stop watching it for the period. Dot and Bubble. Oh, that was an amazing story.
Yes.
I think one of the things that's important about all science fiction, regardless of what the show is, Doctor Who, Star Trek, Supernatural, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, whatever it is, all of those kind of shows are supposed to make you think and make you consider things that you may or may not usually talk about or consider, right? And I think that's the strength of science fiction, challenging some of our ideas and some of the concepts that we have. In a way, and this might be a goofy thing for me to say, Doctor Who is probably one of the most American things you can have.
Oh, really?
It's a show about a person who does good. And when I think of what Americans are, they're people that do good, who go around the world and help other people. And I think, to me, it's a show about change. And we change through our whole lives. Who I am now is different than who I was at 18. It's going to be different than who I am at 70. But there's a core center to that about being a good person or doing the right thing that, to me, resonates literally as an American, right? So to me, while some people see the Britishness of Doctor Who as a show, I see it as the best of what it is to be American, right? And I mean that as someone who literally goes and helps people, like we did in World War II, where we made sure that the right thing happened for the world. So that it brings me so much joy, and that's what I love about Doctor Who. I think it's a great place where people can find themselves.
One of the things that interests me about Red, White, and Who is some of the early 60s research. I mean, particularly like Fabulous Monsters. I mean, the fact that Forey Ackerman heard about Doctor Who when the Worldcon was in London in '65. Where'd you guys find out about that?
I did a lot of searching of any searchable database that I could find. I bought Famous Monsters of Filmland magazine when I was a kid, and inherited my grandfather's cache of issues number 1 through 12 or something like that.
Wow.
So I knew that FM had covered Doctor Who. So basically I searched for which issues mentioned Doctor Who, got copies of those issues that I didn't have, and read through every single one of them to find what mentions there were, and found all these interesting facts that, like, the misidentified photograph, and the how he describes how you pronounce Daleks, DOLL-X, things like that. So it was just, finding those. And then I wanted to find as many references in American publications to Doctor Who as I could. And finding those early ones was fantastic. Like, wow, when I found the first listing of An Unearthly Child in the American TV Guide, that was a mind-blowing discovery for me. And now we've got a complete set of TV Guide listings of the 60s episodes from Canadian broadcasts, but because they were being picked up on receivers in the United States, they listed them in the certain TV Guide editions.
So
That was
Americans were able to watch Doctor Who as early as 1964 in the United
Yeah,
States.
because of Canada. Yes, because they
Yeah.
got it from the beginning almost. Yeah.
Although did
Mhm.
Canadians get? I mean, actually, that's something I forget if that was mentioned in the book, and I'm sorry I read it when it came out. Did Canadians get? Because I've been listening to the Doctor Who missing episode podcast. They never talk about Canada being part of the places where people should look or where they distributed the
You know,
show.
I suspect that's because all of the episodes that aired in that time period in Canada exist. So there's nothing missing that
Ah,
Canada showed. I think that's the case. I could be wrong. Um, but it could also be simply that they know that we know that they've searched all the stations in Canada too. I don't know exactly.
Yeah, it
It's
seems
my
like
under, it's, I'm
Australia and New Zealand is what they talk about first.
Mhm.
Yeah, I know that Canada, as well as Australia and New Zealand, were some of the places that the episodes were first bicycled to, meaning copies were originally sent to them, then sent from there to other places. So usually there's not too many things in like the Canadian archives or anything like that, because those prints then moved on from those locations, usually to Africa, Hong Kong, places like that. So the Arab world too.
I wanted to bring up Not Everyone Walks the Stage, which is the second book Zeppo Publishing published, written by Sierra Andrews, and I guess you too, Nick. Tell us a little about the
Yeah.
book because it sounds fascinating.
Sure. Not Everyone Walks the Stage is a wonderful children's book about a girl named Sophia, and she goes to school, kindergarten, for the very first time. This is a great Christmas book, actually. And what it is she goes to school, and when she's there on her first, second, third day, the other kids are talking, and she hears that at the end of the year, they walk the stage for graduation. And the character of Sophia gets a little nervous about that and is like, kind of thinks about it. And so she wants to do really well in school. She encounters some things like, some bullies and gets along with her friends at school and navigates all the first time things that you do when you go to school. And when you get to the end of the book, what you actually discover is that the character of Sophia is in a wheelchair and she's taken the
Wow.
term walking the stage literally. So she's
Oh,
been worried because she
wow.
cannot walk the stage herself. So at the end of the book, it's a very feel good ending. She actually announces to everybody as she crosses the stage in her wheelchair, you don't need to walk the stage in order to graduate. The
Nice.
book has done very well. So far, it's actually won 11 book awards. It's an outstanding book. It won the Independent Author Network Book of the Year Award for 2025 for Children's Illustrated and Picture Book. It's won the Firebird International Book Award, first place for children's book, and also first place for best children's needs book. It won the first place Super Champion Children's Book for the Outstanding Creator Book Awards, as well as a first place for Book About Disabilities. It's won a Literary Titan Gold Book Award, and it's up for a number of other awards.
Wow.
We're super proud of it. And if you have somebody who's either going to be graduating soon and they're young or they're going to school for their first time, this is a great book for you. And everybody in the family will love it.
That sounds like a great way to end the show, talking about a book that fitted a Christmas season. It would be Christmas season. It's a feel-good book.
I'll say this. If you are a Doctor Who fan, any book that Zeppo Publishing puts out, we promise you there are Doctor Who Easter eggs in every
Okay.
book we do. So even if you get our children's book, look for the Doctor Who references.
Nick, where can people go and buy these books? You've got How to Celebrate Your Fandom, Not Everyone Walks the Stage, and now Fantastic. Where can they get these books?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, I always direct people to our own website, which is zeppopublishing.com. And Zeppo is with one P, ZEPO, publishing.com. You can basically get our books at any of the online bookstores. So you can go to amazon.com, you can go to barnesandnoble.com, or any other bookstore that kind of is in your area or country. We do distribute internationally. So if you're listening to this podcast overseas, check your local, stores, or check the Amazon in your area and you can get a hold of these books. And the one thing that I'd really encourage people to do is if you like some of what we've done, please do us a favor, leave us a review, especially on Amazon.com or Goodreads. We'd love to hear your feedback. Everybody's a part of our Zeppo Publishing family, so we'd love to hear from you, and that encourages us just to do more books and more projects, really. So.
Yeah. Well, on that note and the time on the wall, it's time to end our show. I want to thank you, Nick Seidler, for coming on the show. Stephen Warren Hill. Thank you, Stephen. for coming on the show. My name's Mark Baumgarten. Come back in 2 weeks for more of Mark Who 42. And next week, of course, is TARDIS Travel Guide here on Subspace Radio. Bye, everyone. You've been listening to Mark Who 42. Your hosts, Mark Baumgarten, Vicky Jakubowski, Juan Sanmiguel, and Zion Giros. Mark Who 42's universe is produced and directed by Mark Baumgarten. Copyright 2025.